Hi everyone, welcome to Salvo Fest and thanks for joining us. I'm Faye from Salvo and today I'm introducing you to Natalie Linney, aka Talie Linseed, who is a textile artist based in Manchester. So Natalie utilises ancient dyeing techniques with natural and man-made objects found in contemporary urban environments to produce entirely unique pieces, which are absolutely beautiful, and I'm pleased to own a few of her wonderful grafted garments myself. Her work seeks to challenge the disposable textile culture that has emerged in recent years. Anyway, I shan't give too much away, but I'd like to say a big thank you to Natalie for joining us today. And how are you?
Hello, Faye. How are you?
Good, thank you. Good. So, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself, and could you provide a brief overview of your journey into natural dyeing?
Yeah, of course. So I'm Natalie, obviously, and I created Talie Linseed, which was originally a clothing brand, probably I think it was 6 years ago in 2015. So how it all started was I was traveling in Australia and ended up woofing in a textile artist house called Kate Fletcher. She's a wonderful woman and we got on really, really well. So I ended up spending a lot of time at Kate's house. Kate taught me everything that I know about natural dyeing. And to be honest, when I was first there, I was really, really interested in sewing and reusing vintage fabrics and reworking materials that already existed. But part of my chores for woofing were to make sure that I went on a forage each day and printed with what I found. Kate really believes that she learns from her woofers and that every single person who does their own print puts something of their own into it, so that something that she's done the same for 10 years could end up being different just by me doing it or another person doing it. So yeah, that was part of my chores, which was a pretty nice chore to have, saying as some people were shoveling animal manure on farms. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but printing seemed that I seem to get off quite lightly. Um, so yeah, that's how it all started, really. And that was probably like 9 years ago now. And I didn't really think too much into it. Like I liked experimenting with it, but I hadn't really thought about doing it for myself. And when I came back to England, I just decided to give it a go. And I got a studio space and found some fabrics and started printing with what I could find in, around Ancoats where my studio was then. And I got a really good response from that. People started asking about what I was making and asking if I could buy them. If they could buy them. So yeah, from then it just went on to selling in a few small shops and markets mainly.
In terms of the kind of colours that you are producing now compared to when you're in Tasmania, is there kind of difference between those?
Yeah, massively. So this is something that I really, really enjoy. And I think out of all the natural printers and dyers, I know something that I think I focus on a lot more is working with what you can just find. So there are a lot of dye plants that are specific for certain colours and that people use to get big reams of fabric all in the same colour. Whereas I'm more interested about the print and it representing exactly where you are. I really love that way of working. And even though the prints might not be as strong or as obvious, there's lots of the colours you can get from dye plants. I think they tell like the story of the place in such a really beautiful, gentle way. So yeah, when I was printing in Tasmania, all the colours were really bright. They have a lot more things that you can experiment with, and obviously their wildlife is so abundant that you can pretty much take your pick. Whereas in the UK it was a lot more gentle. The tones are all really soft. The color scale is very, very gentle and very muted, lots of pastel tones, but I love that. And I think that's something that I got really excited about when I worked with it in the UK. And because I'm a city-based natural dyer, which is also quite unusual, like generally people have large gardens or access to the countryside quite easily, and because I'm right close to the city centre, I like to print a lot with rust and found objects, and especially with Manchester using like the industrial mills like Islington Mill where I have my studio. I like to use things that I found around there because I think it tells a bit of history and it really, really lets you know about the place by the marks that you can find on the prints.
That's amazing. And just to sort of be able to source so close to the built environment, and for that to really sort of enhance your work as well in terms of your colours.
Yeah, I love it. I even love printing with weeds. I always say when I do a workshop with kids and stuff, just to look at little weeds that grow, things that people overlook generally, because there's a little tiny one. I think it's called it's the common geranium. Every person I ask tells me it's a different name, and when I look in books, it's so similar to lots of different things, but it grows everywhere, and it's got these beautiful ornate leaves and little purple flowers, and it's always coming through cracks in walls. And when I used that on silk, it gave a green print, which was so unusual, because green is a very, very, well, you can never really get green with natural print. You always overlay indigo with a yellow. So generally weld and indigo get overlaid. So the yellow and blue to make a green. And what's really interesting on old fabrics is that the indigo is a more successful natural dye than the weld or whatever's been used for a yellow. So the weld will fade, and what will be left will be blue. So if you look on ancient old tapestries, or when you go to textile exhibitions, you'll see what appears to be like a farm scene depicted with like animals in it. And what they'll be standing on will be blue, but actually it would have been green originally. It just means that weld, which is a less successful natural dye to indigo, has faded away over time, and it's just left the blue.
So in terms of your kind of your outlook on sustainable fashion, what made you get into it, and why?
I think Kate, it was all to do with Kate, really. That time in Tasmania was very transformative for me as a person. I think I was just at the right age, and I'd left uni, went traveling, didn't have much confidence in my like art and creativity at all, was really shy about showing people. And Kate's home was just such a nurturing environment and taught me so much. I've always been really like a big lover of textiles and pattern, but I'd never quite find my niche with it. And at Kate's house, we just learned constantly about sustainable fashion. She is involved in different exhibitions. Art from Trash is a brilliant one, where they go to like, their tips are slightly different in Tasmania. So they have kind of like a salvage shop as well next to the tip. So you can go and purchase stuff, good things that they don't think should be tipped, or in like a store next to them. So you go there as part of the exhibition, and you have a certain budget and buy things, then you have to make art from trash. That was like a really fun thing to be part of. And then World Echo, which is a sustainable fashion exhibition. So Kate asked me to design some garments for that. So we made it out of all wasted lace, like different pieces of lace and things that we'd found. And at that point, I was just really interested in putting hoods on everything. So I was making crop tops with hoods. So I made all these, they look pretty space age now when I look back, like lacy crop tops with hoods and long trains that were all exhibited at the show, but we hung them all like they were flying almost. And that was really, really gorgeous. So yeah, it was Kate and the natural dyeing community in Tasmania that really taught me a lot about sustainable fashion, and about mending what you have and really looking after things, and what to find in charity shops and how to repurpose it. So you should also check Kate out as well. She's under Warriors of Cloth. She has amazing stuff on there, and you can have a look at all the community in Tasmania.
That leads me on to just asking what types of materials and garments that you use to dye today. And I know that you have used quite a lot of second-hand clothing as well to incorporate into your work.
Yeah, so for natural print to work, you need to work with natural fabrics, but I would only want to use natural fabrics anyway with my work. So yeah, I use a lot of linen and cotton and silks, and I'm in the process of looking for alternative solutions for silk as well. So yeah, having a bit of practice with new fabrics that are coming out and are becoming more readily available at the minute. But yeah, I'm really, really interested in, just because I used to work in a vintage clothes shop, and I'm really interested in secondhand clothing. Pretty much all my clothes are from car boot sales or secondhand shops. So yeah, I love the idea of people finding things themselves and then sending them to me, and then I could print them and give them a few options of different designs that they could have. And yeah, that's a way to give life to some of your more plainer items that you might want to rejig a bit. But yeah, I love that way of working, that people can find something that belonged to someone else and then we can give it a whole new life. Like the story of clothes, I think is really interesting because you never know who's had them. Like I think I have some shirts off Kate again. I think I have a dress from like the 1930s and a little shirt from then as well. And I just love the idea that all these different people have worn it and now it's mine, and I find them like really, really special, you know, like old books or anything. They're really important to me.
I guess as well, just the kind of spontaneity of not really knowing what print you're going to do, what you're going to sort of achieve at the end of it, and I really like the idea of that as well, and just that unpredictability. I think people should be more accepting for things that just take more of an organic form, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I think that it's such a lovely way to work as well, because you get different garments that you wouldn't necessarily pick yourself, you know, when your friends ask you to dye, and you can work with slightly different weaves, and just, yeah, it's really lovely. Because I remember having this silk suit jacket and that was really great to dye. And a wool coat, you've got the wool coat, haven't you? And I've got my long wool coat that everybody always talks about, that was one of my favorite things to dye as well. So yeah, it's just really fun. And like you said, it's completely organic. The wool coat I owned is still quite a light color, isn't it, with lots of pattern on it, and I intended that to be grey, and it didn't come out grey at all because there was too much fabric in the pot, so it didn't take as much color as I thought. But I love it, and it's still one of my favorite pieces, and I never would have planned for that print or that colorway, but yeah, that's how it turned out, and it works really, really well.
No, it's wonderful. Yeah, big fan of your work. So last question, what item would you personally never buy new?
I don't think there's a problem with buying anything new. I think it's more the amount of things that you buy. I think it's trying to cut that down. Obviously, look for the best brands you can. I would always say look in charity shops, try secondhand places, and yeah, really think about what you want out of that item. If you want it to last, you know, what's it for? If it's not going to last, is there anything else that you could do with it? Can you give it to someone else later? You know, like have maybe like a clothes sharing thing with your friends that are similar build to you, that it's like, well, I'll buy this stuff, you buy that stuff, and then we can swap over, so that you're not both consuming. When I thought more about it, I said it would probably be a fast fashion party dress, because there's so many of them in charity shops that you could just pick up. And I do understand about sizes and shapes, because I'm not the size that fits into everything. So yeah, it can be difficult. But yeah, I think getting quite inventive with your friends and people close to you, so you can do clothes shops a lot, or yeah, decide to kind of share buy things. And I know lots of vintage shops now do hiring clothes, don't they? So you can hire dresses for the night rather than buying them. So there are lots of different alternatives to buying everything new yourself. But yeah, I think it's more cutting down on how much you consume rather than buying something new. I think it's important that we don't go and buy like 10 things of the same item when you just don't need that. Having one winter coat's pretty great, isn't it, really? Or maybe having one outdoors one and one dress one. You don't need to have 20. So I think it's changing your attitude to that, really. And if you do want to have 20, maybe you buy the other 18 secondhand or something like that. So trying to change your buying habits like that, I think, is a good way to go. Okay, so when we're wrapping bundles for natural print, you want to get a piece of fabric, so either cotton, linens, or silk or wool, just natural fabrics, and you pre-treat it. So you can buy alum off the internet from different websites to do with natural printing, or you can make your own out of some iron. So you just get some rusty objects and leave them soaking overnight in some water, and then you soak the fabric in that water for about an hour. Now, once you've done that and pre-treated your fabric with mordant, you just go and collect some leaves. Now, you can read up on lots of different leaves and flowers that work for natural print, or you can just have a go with things you find around you. and it's up to you how you lay them out, if you want them overlapping or all separate. If you want a symmetrical print, you would just put it on half like this, and if you want a print that just covers the whole piece of fabric, you would just put your leaves everywhere. I want symmetrical print, so I'm going to do it like this, and then I fold it in half. And then what you do is you just roll your bundle as tightly as possible, because it's the leaf's contact to the fabric that's going to make the print. So that's really what you're looking to do. Now on small bundles like this, you don't really need to use elastic bands, but on big long ones where I use them normally, I need to put a band on it so that I can keep my string in place. So you literally just wrap it up and then get some string, and I always tuck it under the elastic band like that, and then I just wrap it, and really as tight as you can. It's all about the bind here and how much contact you can get from the leaf onto the fabric. So I normally repeat it, and they look like strange little voodoo dolls, really, don't they? When they're all wrapped up. And then I tuck that back in, so then it's easy to unravel when I get it out of the pot. And then I just either submerge that in a dye bath, or I would steam it, but never use the same pans as you use for cooking. Make sure you use old pans, and one specially designated for natural print. That's our bundle.